Hey guys, and welcome to my talk for the Tableau Fringe Festival on using statistics and visual analytics. Thank you for tuning in, and big thank you to Emily and Jen and team for pulling the Fringe Festival together. I really hope you're enjoying the talks as much as I do, and you enjoy this talk too. Just to kick off my talk, just a little bit about me. My name is Wasim Ali, and I am the director and co-founder of a small analytics company called CloudStream Partners. We're based in the UK, and we specialise in Tableau consultancy and training across UK and Europe. We're relatively new. We're kind of a year in, and got a few employees, and slowly growing the business and looking to expand in the next few years too. Just a little bit about my background without trying to put you guys to sleep. I'm a statistician by background and worked in various analytical roles, mostly through kind of healthcare and consultancy businesses. I decided to set up CloudStream Partners about a year back. I loved Tableau and I loved using the product and getting my hands dirty with the product. I had some experience in deploying Tableau as a software. And wanted to share my experiences with lots of businesses, which was the reason I set up in the first place. So why am I doing this talk? I've spoken to, especially in the past year, I've spoken to a lot of businesses around their data needs, and I often come across terms like data analysis or statistical analysis, and in businesses these terms are often seen as like black box exercises and they're scared to almost open that black box. So I've kind of set myself on a mission to open this so-called black box and showcase to businesses how simple and I highlight simple statistical analysis can be so beneficial for the business. So this talk isn't going to be really complex statistical analysis. If that's what you're looking for, I'm really sorry, but kind of watch this space. I will be doing more talks which are perhaps a bit more advanced. But this is just a start, just to show how really simple analysis can make such a big difference to the business. I really hope you enjoy this talk, and your comments and feedback will be much appreciated. So this talk is going to be structured around the what, the why, and the how, and you'll see what I mean as we go through the talks. But we're going to be covering the what, why, and the how on histograms, scatter plots and trend lines, and control charts. So hope you enjoy it as we go through this. Okay, so if we kick off with histograms, so what is a histogram? A histogram is a way of displaying statistical information, which showcases, which highlights the frequency of data items by equally sized intervals. So it could be something like you want to look at how much profit a business has made across all its orders, as an example. It could be a supermarket. So how many products have they sold that have made a profit between £0 and £100, as an example. And so that's kind of the kind of information that this will show. It's different to a bar chart. It doesn't have any gaps in between the bars, and actually the height of the bar is proportional to the amount that falls within those intervals. Why would you use histograms? They're a really simple and great way to compare grouped measures. So the example that I used on profit. So how many orders are we making are earning us a profit versus orders that we are making that are making us a negative profit, as an example. So you can really quickly and easily analyze that. And in a tool like Tableau, it's literally 2 clicks to create it. With the how, I'm just going to go to another Tableau workbook that I prepared earlier. I've just connected to a really simple sample dataset from Tableau, the EU dataset over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how to create a histogram. So really simple in Tableau. So I click on profit, I go to show me, and I click histogram. And that is literally it in terms of creating the histogram. And that obviously, once you create the chart, you can then look at the information and see what the data is actually showing you. So I've done it on profit here, because that was the example that I ended up using. And what you can straight away see, we've got intervals, or what Tableau defines as bins, of £500. and we can see the majority of our customers were making a profit of £0 to £500. We've got a few where we're making kind of a bit more, and likewise we've got a few that we're making a bit more. I think the bins are 500 or 300. Seems to be about 350 the bin size. Sorry, I assumed it was 500 because of the axes, but clearly it's a little bit less. So we can, as a business, I would probably be more interested in the negative profits and what's triggering that. So it triggers a really quick piece of analysis after that you can look into maybe the negative profits. I mean, as a business, you probably don't want to be making negative £700 on a product that you sell. In Tableau, I've created this histogram, and automatically Tableau has binned the profit item. So these are your intervals, and it's created it down here. I'll just go to edit. So, I mean, if we set the current value to be 200, go to OK. Did that do anything? Sorry, 200. Okay. So I've changed my bin size now. I've just gone into edit and changed my bin size to 200. So my bin size is looking like 200 now. And if I show my parameter control over here, I can make this interactive. So I can adjust the bin size to highlight the information a little bit better. Really simply, that's histograms. They're a great way to really quickly and easily do comparisons between measure-based intervals and see where perhaps kind of problematic or positive areas are in your business. Okay, so if we just go back to the presentation and look at the next one in. So these are going to get progressively harder in terms of how much work you need to do in Tableau. So I might have streamed through the histogram stuff, but these will the next two topics will take slightly longer. So scatter plots and trend lines. So to begin with, what is a trend line? A trend line is used in graphs, and it shows. So you've created a graph with perhaps, I don't know, your sales and profit, and you want to showcase the direction that the points are going. Obviously, the greater the number of the sales, you want to see a higher the profit. So you want to see kind of an upward direction. A trend line will be used to kind of best fit all the points on a graph and show the direction of travel, whether being upward or downward. Now, I don't know if you guys remember from kind of your high school days, but we used to kind of get points on a graph. Certainly over here, you used to get points on a graph, and your teacher used to ask you to use a pencil and ruler to kind of do a freehand drawing of a line of best fit. That's essentially what a linear trend line is, and that's where and Tableau makes creating trend lines this really easy, but there's a bit more science behind in creating them. Now, what's really important when creating trend lines is deciding on what model you want to use. And you would have noticed in Tableau you've got your linear, logarithmic, exponential, and polynomial models that you can use. And it's important to know which one best fits your data. For this and for this part of the talk, I don't want to necessarily emphasize the calculations or how a trend line is created or anything like that. I just want to emphasize how you can determine which is the best model. And how you can do it easily and quickly using something like Tableau. The why in trend lines, I think it says it for itself, and we've touched on this already. You can see the pattern and direction of the data a lot easier. Sometimes with scattered points across the graph, you can't see the trend so easily, but with adding some sort of trend line, you can see the direction of travel a lot easier. I've added a which to this part of the presentation, which is basically which is the best trend line to pick. And by eye, it isn't always clear cut which one you should go for. By default, we all go for linear to begin with, and then we experiment. So I'm not going to sit here and I don't know, try and explain a way that you can straight away pick the right model. Instead, I'm just going to explain how you can understand which is the best trending model to use and how you can use that through Tableau. And this is where the R-squared value comes in. Now, the R-squared value is known as the coefficient of determination, and it's a statistic used to determine the goodness of fit of a trend model. Now, before I put you guys to sleep, I'm gonna stop with all the details. All I want you guys to remember is that an R squared value closer to 1 means the model is of a good fit, so the data represents the model that we're doing. An R squared value closer to 0 says exactly the opposite. Okay, so let's have a play with scatter plots. And using exactly the same data, I think we looked at profits before. So let's look at sales. So let me drag in my sales into the column shelf, and as we looked at profit before, we'll compare it against profit. And let's break down the points by state. Now, I mean, straight away by eye, you can see that the trend is perhaps going up, especially with this point right here, where it was quite a big sale. So you can see that the trend. If I was to go back to my high school days and get that ruler and pencil and try to freehand draw a line on this, I'd probably draw something like this. So nice and easy. And as a business, I want to see that as a direction. What I don't want to see is I want to see the greater the sales up here. I want to see the greater the amount of profit. What I don't want to see is greater the sales, the lower the amount of profit. So let's put a trend line to this. So go to the analytics pane, drag. Let's start with linear. Okay, so that line of best fit that I was trying to draw, I wasn't too far off the line of best fit. Tableau has automatically created it. It's created confidence bands around it. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to remove those and take a look at the line of best fit. Now, what you can see straight away is if I hover over, it will show me my R squared value of 0.8. Sorry, 0.88. And it will show you. So it will show you 3 points. It will show you the equation of the profit line. It will show you the R squared value, which we've spoken about, and the P value. I won't get into what the equation is actually showing, but watch out for a future blog post which explain how that's derived. If I just right click on the line and go to describe trend model, what I did want to just point out is the significance over here, and it shows that the P value is 0.0001. And the model may be significant at p less than 0.05%. I just wanted to highlight this as the p-value is the probability of the equation of the model, so that equation that I showed you right at the top, being due to random chance. So the lower the probability, the better in this particular case. So that's a good level of significance, and the R squared value is backing that up as well, with 0.8 being a good model to use. Let's just try the other models. So that's quite a good model of fit there, but let's just try some of the other models. So let's just go to logarithmic. I mean, you can see straight away from the way the data points are sorted and where this line goes that might not be such a great fit. But if I just hover over this, you'll see that, I mean, we've got 0.2 there, and that's not a very good fit at all. I mean, if I just for example purposes, if I was to just select these points, you'll see that the R squared value for this has jumped up slightly as a result. So it does really depend on the distribution of your points. Exponential, I mean, similar. That's nothing compared to 0. I think it was 0.8. So not that great. Let's try the final one, which is polynomial. Okay, that seems like a good fit. Okay, yeah, so that's out of all the models that we've used, the R squared value for that is the best. So we're kind of going into very, very close to 1 now, and a good p-value there as well. So because of the data, that is probably the best model to use for the points that we've got here, and it will accurately reflect to certain degrees of freedom. It will accurately reflect the data being showed there. So that's a goodness of fit model there. And again, just to kind of highlight, if I was to not include certain points in that, this becomes a lot stronger in terms of the R squared value. So if I was to exclude those points at the bottom here, we're suddenly going into 0.96 in terms of the model that we're trying to create here. So again, trend lines and trend models, great to do, shows you the direction really quickly and easily, and then you can use that as then to go away and forecast what the future may look like as well. Let's go back to the presentation. And the final thing that we're going to look at is something called control charts, and they're also known as statistical process control charts, so SPCs in a lot of businesses as well. And this is essentially a graph used to study how a process changes over time. Your data will be plotted in date time order across the x-axis, so horizontally, and with a central average line across your data points, and then you'll have an upper and lower control limit, which is usually your standard deviations. And you can, through this process of showing your data in some sort of line graph with those three lines, you can see how your data varies over time. And very easily you can start seeing the patterns in the data too. Why are control charts why would you use control charts? They're a simple and easy way to see how your data varies over time. And I can only explain this by example, so I'm going to try and do it in the healthcare example, because that's where a lot of my experience revolves around. Now, if we're looking at something like a hospital is trying to reduce its admission time for its patients, and it's come up with a process, it's done some work, it's come up with a process that they believe will reduce the patient admission time. They've now started looking at the data, the current time it takes to admit patients. They've put it on a control chart. They've put the average and the standard deviation on there. They can now measure the variation, knowing that they've implemented improvements, so they can start seeing how significant those improvements are. So what they would want to see is the admission time reducing, and they would want to see that reducing significantly. And that's where the control chart would come in, because you would want that control chart to be going lower than your lower control limit that you added in there. What's really key, and we'll show this by example here as well, but what's really key for control charts is you need to know your data, and you need to know why those variations are occurring. That's where you can really benefit from them. So let's go ahead and do our final example on control charts in Tableau. And let's just real quickly put month and year in the columns, and let's do sales in the rows. So nice simple line chart using Tableau's analytics pane. Let's bring in the average line. Let's just go ahead and edit that for a second and just make that to slightly thicker. These are just really simple. No, it seems like I'm going quick, but really simple formatting changes that I'm just making. So I've got my average line in there, I've got my data points, I've got my average line. This is looking at sales over time. Let's just add our control limits. So I go to distribution here. I'm going to do standard deviations. And again, I'm going to just choose a line that will stick out a bit. Okay. Sorry, apologies. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, so I've got myself here a control chart or an SPC chart. So I've got my data in the blue, I've got my average in the orange, and my standard deviations, what upper standard deviation by 1 and lower standard deviation by 1 in purple. Now you would have noticed that when I quickly breezed over this, but when I went to create my standard deviation here, I had this factors text box which I can change to 2, -2, or whatever numbers I want. A lot of people don't actually know the significance of this, so just to give you a very quick overview of it, assuming that your data fits or relatively fits a normal distribution curve, you can assume that a standard deviation of -1 and 1 will cover 68% of your data. So it's essentially saying that 68% of your data will and should fit within that range. -2 and +2 is 95%. So same definition, but 95% of your data should fit within your 2 standard deviations. If you're going to 3, then you're looking at 99.7%. I think I don't know the exact amount, but it's something along those lines. For the purposes of this, though, I mean, I'd stick to -2 and 2. And what I can see straight away is those fields over here, which are outside of my 2 standard deviations. So I can see this one is, and this one is. And it could just be something like that in August 2014, we had a huge sale, and the sales just went through the roof. So we've seen the variation. We came up with a plan perhaps in June or July, came up with a plan to do this big sale, and we've seen the effects in August. And the effects are so much greater than previous years in August. So if I go here, we've had a small peak in August, but not significant. If I go back here in 2012, we've had a peak again, not a significant peak. But over here, we can see that actually it's gone outside 2 standard deviations, so outside 95% of our data. So it's a significant peak there, and that's why control charts are so significant, that you can use them a lot more and a lot more to do quick and dirty analysis like this. You can obviously take this visualization further, and I'm restricted for time a little bit, so maybe I'll follow this up with a blog post where you can start looking at kind of highlighting those that are outside of the standard deviation, and introducing kind of parameter controls for how many standard deviations you want. So whether it's -1, +1, or 2 or 3. So you can certainly get a little bit more visually interactive with control charts. Okay, so that's a wrap on my talk. I really hope you guys found that useful, and like I said, feedback is more than welcome. If you do have any questions, kind of message me on Twitter. It's at @cloudstream_WA. I've stuck my email address in here as well. I think these videos are going to be published online, so drop me a line on the email or on Twitter to ask me any questions or give me any feedback on the talk. Another good post to follow is @cloudstream_UK. We're publishing daily blogs and tips on anything to do with Tableau. So really good quick tips in there as well as some more detailed blog posts. So follow @cloudstream_UK for that. Thank you very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the talk. Cheers.